The Crusades and their lasting impact on Islamic civilization. The Crusades, 1096 to 1291, were a defining period in the medieval Islamic world, as they brought about significant challenges and opportunities. While often viewed through the lens of conflict and resistance, the Crusades had profound and lasting effects on Islamic civilization, influencing its political structures, military strategies, economy, culture, and identity. These campaigns helped shape the trajectory of the Islamic world in the centuries that followed. 1. Political impact, unification, and fragmentation. The rise of centralized leadership. The Crusades initially targeted a fragmented Islamic world, divided among rival dynasties such as the Seljuks, Fatimids, and smaller emirates. However, the Crusades served as a catalyst for unification. Saladin's leadership. Saladin, Salah ad-Din Yusuf ibn Ayyub, emerged as a unifying figure, consolidating Egypt, Syria, and parts of Iraq under the Ayyubid dynasty. His leadership became a symbol of Islamic unity and resistance. Legacy of centralization. Saladin's success inspired subsequent leaders, such as the Mamluks, to strengthen centralized states capable of resisting external threats. The Mamluks and the end of the Crusades. The Mamluks, a powerful military caste in Egypt, became the primary defenders of the Islamic world. Victories over the Crusaders. The Mamluks decisively defeated the Crusaders at key battles such as the Siege of Acre, 1291, marking the end of Crusader presence in the Levant. Consolidation of power. The Mamluk Sultanate established a centralized regime that controlled the Levant and Egypt, positioning itself as the protector of Islam. Internal divisions. Despite periods of unity, the Crusades also highlighted and sometimes exacerbated divisions within the Islamic world. Sunni-Shi'a tensions. The rivalry between Sunni Seljuks and Shi'a Fatimids weakened the early response to the Crusaders. Regional loyalties. Local rulers often prioritized their own interests over broader cooperation, creating challenges for sustained resistance. 2. Military innovations and strategy. Adapting to the Crusader threat. The Crusades spurred significant advancements in Islamic military tactics and technology. Fortification design. Muslim engineers improved castle designs, incorporating lessons learned from both defending and besieging fortresses. Iconic examples include the Citadel of Aleppo and the defensive structures at Cairo. Naval power. Muslim states expanded their naval capabilities to counter the Crusader fleets, particularly during the later stages of the Crusades. Tactics and guerrilla warfare. Hit-and-run tactics. Muslim forces often employed mobile and flexible tactics, exploiting their knowledge of the terrain to harass and weaken Crusader armies. Logistical disruption. Muslim leaders targeted Crusader supply lines, forcing their enemies to rely on vulnerable coastal cities for resources. Legacy of military organizations. The need for sustained resistance to the Crusaders contributed to the professionalization of Islamic armies. Military training. The Mamluks' rigorous training in mounted combat and archery became a model for elite forces in the Islamic world. Standing armies. Unlike the feudal levies of the Crusaders, Islamic states increasingly relied on professional soldiers, setting a precedent for later military organizations. 3. Economic impact. Trade and commerce. The Crusades disrupted but also stimulated trade between the Islamic world and Europe. Enhanced trade networks. The Crusades opened new opportunities for trade with European markets, particularly in luxury goods like spices, textiles, and glassware. Cultural exchange. Despite the conflict, economic interactions facilitated the transfer of knowledge, technology, and goods between Islamic and Christian merchants. Taxation and revenue. Islamic states developed new systems to finance their defense against the Crusaders. Jihad taxes. Leaders imposed special taxes to fund military campaigns, strengthening state control over economic resources. Economic resilience. Muslim cities like Damascus, Cairo, and Aleppo emerged as resilient economic hubs, capable of supporting prolonged resistance. 4. Cultural and intellectual exchange. Transmission of knowledge. The Crusades created opportunities for intellectual exchange between Islamic and Christian civilizations. Science and medicine. Islamic advancements in fields such as astronomy, mathematics, and medicine influenced European thought, contributing to the Renaissance. Cultural diffusion. Crusaders returning to Europe brought back Islamic innovations, such as architectural techniques, agricultural products, and scientific texts. Cultural resilience. The Crusades strengthened Islamic cultural identity. Religious unity. The defense of holy sites, including Jerusalem, reinforced the role of Islam as a unifying force in the region. Art and architecture. The period saw a flourishing of Islamic art and architecture, often inspired by the need to commemorate victories or fortify cities. 5. Religious and social impact. Strengthening Islamic identity. The Crusades heightened the sense of Islamic solidarity. Jihad as a unifying concept. The idea of jihad, struggle in the path of God, gained prominence as a rallying cry against the Crusaders, shaping the political and religious discourse of the time. Defender of the faith. Leaders like Saladin were celebrated not only as military commanders but also as defenders of Islam, blending religion with statecraft. Christian-Muslim relations. The Crusades left a lasting imprint on interfaith relations. Mutual perceptions. While the Crusades fostered animosity, they also led to mutual respect among leaders like Saladin and Richard the Lionheart, setting an example of chivalry and diplomacy. Legacy of conflict. The Crusades entrenched religious divisions that influenced later interactions between the Islamic world and Europe, including during the colonial period. 6. Long-term geopolitical consequences. End of Crusader influence. The eventual expulsion of the Crusaders from the Levant marked a significant victory for the Islamic world. Restoration of Islamic dominance. The reconquest of Jerusalem and other territories reaffirmed Muslim control over the region's religious and political centers. Symbol of resistance. The defeat of the Crusaders became a powerful symbol of Islamic resilience, celebrated in historical narratives and popular memory. Impact on future conflicts. The Crusades set a precedent for future interactions between the Islamic world and Europe. Ottoman expansion. The rise of the Ottoman Empire was influenced by the military and administrative systems developed during the Crusades. Colonial resistance. The memory of the Crusades was invoked during European colonial incursions, shaping the narratives of resistance in the Islamic world. Conclusion. A complex legacy. The Crusades had a profound and multifaceted impact on Islamic civilization. While they brought immense challenges, including devastation and prolonged conflict, they also served as a catalyst for unity, innovation, and cultural resilience. The Islamic world emerged from the crusading period with strengthened political structures, advanced military strategies, and a renewed sense of religious and cultural identity. The legacy of the Crusades continues to influence the Islamic world today, shaping its historical consciousness and its relationship with the West. As a period of both conflict and exchange, the 7. The Crusades and Islamic civilization in historical memory. The memory of the Crusades has left an enduring imprint on Islamic identity, shaping the ways in which the Islamic world understands itself and its relationship with the West. A symbol of resistance and resilience. Victory over invaders. The ultimate expulsion of the Crusaders from the Levant was celebrated as a triumph of Islamic unity and perseverance. Figures of heroism. Leaders like Saladin became enduring symbols of Islamic heroism, revered not just for their military achievements but for their virtues of mercy, diplomacy, and justice. Saladin remains a cultural icon, celebrated in Islamic literature, art, and popular culture. Myth and memory. The Crusades were framed as a defining chapter in the defense of Islam, fostering a sense of pride and solidarity among Muslim communities. The Crusades in Islamic historiography. Historical narratives. Islamic chroniclers, such as Ibn al-Athir and Imad al-Din al-Isfahani, documented the Crusades, often emphasizing the moral and spiritual dimensions of the conflict. Modern interpretations. In the 19th and 20th centuries, during the era of European colonialism, the memory of the Crusades was revived as a historical parallel, casting colonial powers as modern-day crusaders, shaping interfaith relations. Legacy of division. The Crusades entrenched mutual distrust between Christians and Muslims, a legacy that influenced later periods of conflict, including the Ottoman Habsburg Wars and European colonial incursions. Opportunities for dialogue. The interactions during the Crusades also planted seeds of mutual respect. Figures like Saladin and Richard the Lionheart were admired across religious lines, demonstrating the potential for coexistence and dialogue even in the midst of conflict. 8. Intellectual responses to the Crusades. The intellectual class in the Islamic world responded to the Crusades in ways that shaped Islamic thought and philosophy. Theological reflections. Jihad in thought. The Crusades reinforced the theological concept of jihad as both a defensive and spiritual struggle. Scholars like Ibn Taymiyyah elaborated on the importance of collective defense in the face of external threats. Renewal of faith. The Crusades prompted a revival of Islamic orthodoxy, with scholars urging a return to piety, unity, and moral discipline as a response to external aggression. Advances in scholarship. Preservation of knowledge. Despite the disruptions of war, Islamic scholars continued to preserve and expand upon scientific, medical, and philosophical traditions. This intellectual resilience contributed to the transmission of Islamic knowledge to Europe, influencing the Renaissance. Pragmatic learning. Exposure to Crusader